done is dual. We've done dual design where at non-peak times you use the market, and then at peak times you have a separate entrance gate, entrance area where people pay or they scan their QR code. And they also have the option of not leaving through the market because you want the market still not so crowded that it can function. Many people will still come through the market, but a lot of them will go through the side exit. The side exit is also important if you're doing U-pick with pumpkins or something where people are taking them out on wheelbarrows or wagons or whatever. You don't want that going through the store. Hay wagon rides. This is a big safety issue for any farm. Since 2000, we've managed to kill 24 people at agritourism events, 14 of them children. Causes of accidents and deaths are falling off the ride, the tractor losing control, the wagon disconnecting from the tractor, hay wagon overturns, collides with a vehicle on a public road, the wagon jackknifes, young people jump off of the hay wagon and moving from one wagon to another. Many years ago, I did work for a farm in New Jersey, and they did massive school field trips. And what they did is they brought all the buses in to the normal parking lot, and all the children got off. And I don't have a picture, but then they drove the hay wagon right up through them. And there couldn't be anything more dangerous, especially when you're dealing with younger children. We spent a lot of time and totally redesigned a separate entry that was totally safe for the buses, that was separate from the public area, and where the hay wagon was totally separated from the children. Your wagon design needs to have sides all the way around, at least 30 inches high, should have seating. You need a gate or enclosure where the steps are, and no double wagons. The photo example I'm showing you, that bulkhead is too low, and children could stand up and literally fall off the front of the wagon and then be run over. These are some examples of totally unsafe wagons. It's an accident waiting to happen. And here's also unsafe. Double wagons are considered very unsafe. And here's some safe wagons, totally enclosed, high sides, nice steps, enclosures. The hay wagon route needs to be smooth, no steep areas, trim the bushes, and under no circumstances do you ever should you take a hay wagon out on a public road or even cross a public road. There was once a major fatality with a hay wagon in Canada for that very reason. So I'm going to show you how to get the most throughput with hay wagons at a really busy time. What you do is you create a corral, a loading corral, where you pre-count the number of people who can fit into the hay wagon. What happens when you don't do that and you're just loading the hay wagon randomly? Once you get towards the end, you might have 2 seats left, and a party of 4 starts to get on, and then they realize that they all can't fit and they have to get off, and that slows down the whole procedure. And then there should be barricade fencing to totally separate the hay wagon route from where the public is. So what happens is the hay wagon approaches the loading corral, not at the loading corral, it unloads. There we go, it unloaded. Then the gate's closed. The hay wagon's checked to make sure everybody's off and there's no personal possessions in it. Then it proceeds over to the loading corral. The loading corral's open, the people are put in the wagon, and then the wagon goes off. That will give you the highest throughput you can have on a hay wagon ride. Separating the unloading area from the loading corral actually speeds the whole process up. And on the hay wagon ride, there should be a tour guide on the wagon with a two-way radio connecting with the tractor driver. The problem with farm tractors is that most of them are so noisy, whoever's driving would have no way of hearing if there was a problem in the hay wagon and they had to stop. We also recommend that all tractors be equipped with rear view mirrors so they can have a good view of the hay wagon. Animal areas. Oh, here's your checklist. I'm sorry. You should have a lot of checklists, and some things should be checked daily, some things annually. You need good training for your hay wagon drivers. Animal areas. This is another key safety area on farms. The reason being E. coli. Since the year 2000, we've sickened over 1,100 people at agritourism venues with E. coli. We've hospitalized almost 200, and we've killed 6. The most recent was the death of a 2-year-old in Tennessee, and the 2-year-old had not actually gone to the petting zoo. His brother did, and what they found is the brother tracked the E. coli into the house on his shoes, and that's where the 2-year-old caught it. Children under 5 are most susceptible to E. coli due to their immature immune system. And many of them, even if they're infected and cured, they have 30% have lifelong medical problems. Your high-risk animals are cattle, sheep, and other ruminants. And you have to recognize that E. coli can live for months in animal bedding or in the soil. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture has found cattle testing positive for E. coli in every herd that has ever been tested. So you really want to avoid cattle or any possible contact with them. The risk factors are touching their faces while in the petting zoo, especially children, coming in contact with surfaces that could be contaminated, actually touching the animals, eating or drinking while in the area, and not washing the hands after leaving the petting zoo. The number one way to prevent E. coli contamination, the most effective among many, is to make sure that everyone that goes in a petting area washes their hands. I'm going to show you 2 design concepts for petting areas. For an open animal area, you want to definitely have double fencing so children or people on the outside of it can't come in contact or touch the animals. Then you have an entry exit. And on the exit, you want people to face signage about washing their hands and face the hand washing sinks. Most people won't read the sign, but when they see the sinks, that tells them they should wash their hands. If you're doing an animal barn, it's a very similar concept where you have the signage and the hand washing sinks at both ends. So whenever people are leaving, they're confronted with the opportunity to wash their hands. And you definitely want good signs. Here's just a few examples. And I will mention we have write-ups about hay wagging, safety, and animal areas, a number of articles in past issues of our newsletter that go into a little more detail than I'm going over here.
Excuse me, Randy, do you
Yes?
recommend washing hands before and after?
No, after.
Just after?
Yeah, because if you got E. coli on them, you want to get it off. We're not concerned about contaminating the animals. Here's just a few examples of one sink setup. By the way, hand sanitizer will not kill E. coli. I've been to many farms where they're putting the hand sanitizers around in the animal areas, and it will not kill it. You have to use soap and water. And it's always wise, I don't have a good photo, but it's always wise to have a sink that's lower, making it easier for children to wash their hands. So you need the sink, you need soap, and you should use hand towels, paper towels. And since COVID, a lot of agritourism liability insurance policies have excluded any way that a person can get sick because of the E. coli. And you want to check your liability to make sure it covers the type of diseases you can get from dealing with animals. A lot of policies now exclude that with a very broad exclusion. Circulation. If you're doing a festival area or anything like that, the ideal is not to have a dead end like on the left. What you want is to have circulation so people can circulate through the whole area. I can't tell you why, but people just don't like the dead ends, and many of them won't even walk the whole length. Where if you get them going in a circular pattern, they will walk and get exposed to everything. And you can have sort of multiple circles too, something like this. And each of those green areas is some activity or plaything or something for people to do. Let's talk a little about food and beverage menus. Do not sell hot dogs. Why would you want to sell something for $3 or $4 you hardly make any money off of when you can have options at $8, $10, $12, $14 where you make a profit? If you eliminate the hot dogs, they're going to buy something else. What you want to do is have the maximum profit margin on your items. The other thing you want to do is try to keep your menus simple. Don't make them 50 items. You just need basics. You get too many items, it takes people longer to make a decision. It also complicates your whole kitchen operation. And you want to properly price everything. This is a worksheet. The item costs aren't accurate, but what you need to do is cost every item that goes into that food product. In this case, it's a hamburger. We're pricing the hamburger, the bun, the slice of tomato, the cheese, the lettuce, even the salt and the spices and the onion. People are going to put ketchup on them, or they're going to put something on them. They're going to use condiments. You want to price that. And then your disposables. If you're serving on paper plates and plastic silverware and all, that has a cost which can be quite substantial. Napkins, all that. It all needs to be figured into what the cost is. In this example, we came up with $3.31. But then the other thing is you're going to have waste. You're going to cook 4 too many hamburgers. At the end of the day, you got to throw them away. or somebody's going to drop them on the floor. So you need to put in a waste factor. I use 5% if you're really efficient. That gets us up to a total cost of $3.50. The maximum cost of goods you want to have is 30%. So you divide it by the 30%, and that gives your selling price, in this case, 1166. But don't stop there. There's no difference between 1166 and 1195. Raise the price. Most farms I find can effectively operate at about a 25% cost of goods sold, especially for festivals where you're selling a lot of foods, sweets, donuts, things like that. But you need to go through this exercise on everything you sell, or you're not going to be making the profit you can. And if the price comes up too high, maybe in this case it was a 5.3 ounce hamburger, and you say, "Oh, my customers are never going to pay $11.95 in this market for a hamburger," then you go back and you rework it and try it with a 4 ounce hamburger, and that'll bring the price down. Also, to speed up everything, combo meals are great. It eliminates a lot of decision making for people. And they just, if you go to McDonald's or anywhere else, give me a number three. You have your entree item, you have fries or chips or whatever you're adding to it, and you have a drink. It keeps it real simple. We're seeing a major trend also in the country now. It's called sober curious movement. People are drinking less, and many people are stopped drinking altogether. And if you're serving beer, wine, or even alcohol on your farm, you need to think about offering some non-alcoholic alternatives besides just sodas. If you're selling beer for $4, then get a non-alcoholic beer like Athletic, and people will still pay $5 or $6 for that, and you'll be making a much better margin than then just defaulting to a soda. We're seeing this decrease in drinking very predominantly with the younger generations, the Gen Zs and the younger millennials. And what they're looking for is they're looking for what they used to have, but without the alcohol. If you get into cocktails, you need to do mocktails, and people will pay the same price for a mocktail as a cocktail. And if all their friends are having cocktails, if they can't get a mocktail, it kind of makes them feel left out. So it's kind of all part of gluing together the social experience. Queuing. Let's talk about queuing. In the upper left is kind of the standard setup if you had 2 or 3 point of sales where there's a line for each of them. That is not the fastest way to get people through. The bottom right is where there's a single line, and then they feed to whichever cash register or whatever point of sale station is available. Because what happens in the upper left situation, and it's happened to me so many times in supermarkets, I don't know, I managed to get in the wrong line every time. One line will get held up for some reason. And as a result, all the people behind them have to wait, and wait. That can't happen in the bottom situation because although maybe one point of sale gets held up with somebody going through all kind of questions and there are all kind of issues, the other two are still operating, so we're still feeding people through. Okay, where do we put the food and beverage and the seating? And I'm assuming in this situation, we're talking about more like a festival setup. If you have multiple food and beverage locations, you're far better off scattering them around rather than just having them at one location. I've seen too many farms where they put all the food and beverage right at the entry area, Well, people are going through all the events and experiencing everything, and they aren't being exposed to the opportunity to buy a drink or buy a food or whatever it is, and you're losing sales. We have farms now that are achieving per capita sales of $14, $15 with their food and beverage at different types of festival type, I call them festival types events or fall festivals. And the other thing you want to do, wherever you have food and beverage where you're offering an entree type of item, not what we call a walk around, where people are really going to have to sit down and eat it, you need seating near it. Because if they don't have seating near it, the people aren't going to buy it because they recognize they got to sit down, they look around, there's no place to sit. The other thing, especially in Florida, is you definitely want to have shaded seating. So you want it directly opposite wherever the food and beverage is being offered. And this is just an idea I saw at one of the farms I worked with, where they did some seating like I wouldn't call it seating, is standing for people drinking and eating things. And this can also work as well. This was a more adult area that they had set up where all the people on the left, they're all drinking beer and wine.
Excuse me, Randy, what about food trucks? Sometimes they need electricity, so how would you take that into account as far as setting up?
Well, quite honestly, I'm not in favor of food trucks. Number one, you don't make much off of them. And number two, you're no longer controlling your brand and the experience. But if you do have food trucks, you still got to have seating near them. If you can't supply electricity, their damn generators are so loud, so that's a real problem. I know a lot of people kind of default to them because they don't want to get in food and beverage, but I will tell you that what has happened in the last 5, 6 years is food and beverage has now become more the anchor for many of these venues than the entertainment and the attractions. We're seeing food and beverage becoming the majority of revenue. I also work in the very traditional entertainment industry where we have bowling and all those type venues. And now they're all moving towards the food and beverage, upgrading it, making it a destination. Yeah, food and beverage will motivate Gen Z and millennials more than almost anything, especially unique. You're on a farm, it's fresh, you can grow your own products. It's just gives you a real advantage to do that versus bringing a generic food truck. Now, I recognize some smaller operations when they're first growing, they go in that direction just so you can have the food and beverage. But at the minimum, I'd recommend you at least do the beverages yourself. Order and pick up. We recommend that you have ordering windows or point of sales areas separate from the pickup. It tends to make things move faster. And what I'm showing you is an example of a facility we designed where in the bottom, the yellow, those are reach-in coolers. So when people are standing at the counter, they can reach in and pick whatever drink they want. And it just speeds up the whole process. If you're just most facilities are just selling canned and bottled beverages, and it's kind of, you know, in their face. So they'll pick something and it just moves it along. So you have 3 order windows and then you have your pickup. And here's just a rendering of the one that's being constructed where you have 3 order windows and then you have a pickup. So I moved along pretty fast there. And we're at the end. So I'm ready for questions.
Wow, that was so thorough. I don't know if we have any questions.
Yeah, you might need to go back. There's a lot of information in there. I didn't read it all.
Just you covered so much. Um, the between the parking and the queuing, I love that.
Yeah.
So you're right. I always get behind the slowest person at the grocery store, and I wish more people would do it that way. And it condenses the line, so you're not taking over more of your land.
Yeah. At airport terminals, for checking and all, they use that system. Even TSA uses it, a lot of locations at airports where there's a single line and then there's multiple TSA agents and you go to the next one.
Right.
Examples.
Hey, Randy, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a question. You covered so much material. If there was one area to start your planning, what would you recommend it be?
I don't,
Of all these topics that you covered today. And I know you gave us a very high level
yeah.
overview.
Well, it depends on what you want to be. Obviously, the relationship of parking
Yeah,
becomes key to the rest of whatever it is.
true. Parking, very good point.
Yeah. And to make sure wherever you place it, there's plenty of room for expansion.
And I know Randy was at the NAFTMA conference, and I don't know if you did the bus tours, but on our bus, as we approached a farm, we were asked about parking. So we were only one bus; that they were closed because it's February in Kentucky, and some places used a field across the street, other places used it around the bend. But parking, because when you have these big festivals, it can fill up very quickly.
Yeah. The peak days are really what you're designing for.
Right.
And
Right.
they're just
Um,
crazy, the peak
Yeah.
days.
We had one question, bathroom facilities. One thing you didn't cover. How
What
would
was
you incorporate bathroom facilities into your plan?
one thing I didn't cover? I'm not sure. I tried to hit key points. I mean, food and beverage, I
Right.
could spend hours talking about food and beverage. I just tried to hit a few highlights on that. But yeah, food and beverage is key now. You really want to focus on it. You really want to focus on what you're offering, the uniqueness of it, the quality of it. Uh, and you're not competing with 7-Eleven on prices. You got to be fair, but you're more like a restaurant in terms of pricing. I can tell you every farm I've ever consulted with, one of the outcomes of my consulting was to raise all their prices. Because you got to remember, you're a farmer, you're not the customer. I know farmer mentality, how inexpensive can I get something? I got to save money, but that's not who you're dealing with. And I'll put it this way, you can raise the price 20% and you can lose 10% of your customers and you still make more revenue. Don't hesitate to raise your prices. Got to remember, we've had 22% inflation in the last 5 years. So, if anything, your prices need to be approximately 20% higher just to be even where you were in 19, uh, you know, before the pandemic. Yeah, pricing. Don't hesitate. Raise your prices. I should have put that in here.
The question was about bathrooms.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good
So,
topic. That's a good topic. And COVID has changed that a lot because people have much higher expectations for sanitation. And we have a lot of farms that are putting in real operating restrooms versus porta potties. It used to be porta potties we could get away with, but the public's expectation has gone way up on what they need and what they expect. And that can be a major expense, but it can make a big difference, especially with the women and the mothers. If you can't do that, you can rent the portable toilet trailers, I guess you can call them.
right. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, those are the in between, but those are definitely could be a solution. I know a lot of farms, not in Florida, but a lot of ones we work with, they can't get the perk test, they can't get the septic approval, so that's the route they go when they can't do that.
I found it interesting you said that hand sanitizer doesn't kill E. coli
Correct.
because I think people assume it would,
I know. Yeah, that's the assumption.
right? Because I've seen at different farms I've gone to, they have hand sanitizer stations set up, but
Mhm.
that's not sufficient,
No, it's not sufficient. It gives a perception, but it
right?
doesn't do the job. Soap and water. Definitely soap and water. That's true with, I think, RSV now too. Only soap and water kills it.
Did we have any more questions for Randy? Like I said, you were so thorough. I know you were giving a high uh, view, but that was just so informative.
And almost all these topics are covered in more depth in some articles in our Agritourism Today newsletter.
Yes, if you don't
And
already subscribe, that's how I found Randy,
yeah,
because I have subscribed to it, and there's lots of great information in
yeah.
there.
You
Can
just go
you
to the
type in a link
website
for
to the
that?
agritourism section and look on the left, and you'll see where you can subscribe.
In fact, I just read your last issue today.
Sarah, can you share the link for that website?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can.
But it's down at whitehutchinson.com.
Okay.
And then there you'll see at the top of the screen different sections. Hit agritourism. If you have any questions, you can email me directly at randy@whitehutchinson.com. Call me.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
So here's real quickly, I'm just showing you one of his newsletters. Um, so 5 ways to grow an agritourism business. Just very informative. Lots of information. So definitely, I recommend you sign up for it.
Doing it now.
If you have any
You
more
all want to look at
questions.
that article covers, and I think I have another article that was covered it, transformational experiences. Those are the most profitable type experiences you can offer.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. So Melissa was asking if you sell signs or have them available to print, specifically hand washing, animal safety, that kind of thing.
I don't sell anything.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. And actually you can go online and probably find some good examples in any sign company. If you take them the graphics, or what you want, they can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And
Amazon has some very inexpensive ones.
Yeah.
do you have suggestions for marketing an event?
Oh, that changes all the time. Obviously social media, but the most important thing is develop an email list. Do you have a sign up on your website for getting an email list? Because those are people who are already showing interest in you and then sending out maybe a monthly newsletter of what's happening. That can be very, very effective. Yeah, you can do Facebook and you can do TikTok and you can do all those things, and you'll hit certain people. But if you give them a chance to sign up for the email, they're saying, "Hey, we're really interested. Let us know what's going on." You need to let them know what's going on.
Yes, Canva, Vistaprint for signage. That's a good idea. And we do have, I share our member events on our social media and our mobile app, and we put it on a calendar. A lot of the information I get because I sign up for their newsletter.
Mhm.
So that's an easy, cheap, free way to reach people.
Yeah, very effective.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question. You mentioned transformational experience. Could you
Mhm.
explain that?
Briefly, yeah, it's called the progression of economic value. So what happens if you're a farm, you can grow corn and sell it as a commodity. We can raise the value of that, the price of it, by suddenly turning it into a product. Uh, Maybe somebody cans the corn, where you're going to get a much higher price for a can of corn than you are for the ear of corn. We can then turn around and turn it into a service, and we're selling corn on the cob at our festival, and we're now getting $3 for a corn of a cob of corn that who knows in the field as a commodity might be worth a nickel or 10 cents. Then we turn around and we take the corn and we turn it into an experience. And what do? We plant 5 acres of corn and we turn it into a corn maze, and we're suddenly charging people $10 to run through a field of corn. That's an experience. Then you raise it even higher, what we call a transformational experience. And if I use corn, we're going to give some sort of cooking class on making some sort of something with corn that's in it. And as a result, people are paying $50 to come to this cooking class, and we get 20 people and we got $1,000. And what's our cost of running the cooking class? $100 maybe? So that has your highest potential. And what's happening today, more and more of our market are the higher socioeconomic, because we're squeezing out the lower middle class and all. They are interested in transformational experiences. They're educated. So they want to learn things. They want to do things. And there's just a major movement in that direction now. Joe Pine, who's really the expert on this, talks about how we're now moving from what we call the experience economy to the transformational economy, where you learn something. I mean, think about what it costs to go to college. That's a transformational experience. And people pay what, $30,000 a year sometimes to do that. And that article in their newsletter, I think, hits some of that. That one that Sarah just mentioned, the 5 ways to grow your business.
Thank you.
So that's the ultimate value added agriculture.
Lots of great information, Randy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots of information. Yeah. Yeah.
And now I know your website, so I'm going to have to go look there too.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to put this presentation together and to take the time with us. It really was just chock full of information.
Okay.
And I apologize for starting the recording late. I'm bad at that. But I will share it with those who signed up, because we had almost 30 people sign up to attend it. So I'll make sure I share it. And
Okay.
then maybe they'll reach out to you for some more advice, more specific advice about their farm.
Okay.
And I want to remind everyone that we have our conference this July in Kissimmee. I'm sharing the link. And I think I just shared it to one of you. Hang on. But hopefully we'll see everyone there this July 20th in Kissimmee. And we'll have topics like this. Shoot, this is a session right here. So much information.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Randy, would you be willing to do this session?
Possibly. I mean, that's lot of travel, a lot of expense.
Nobody wants to come to Florida in July.
Thank you so much, Randy. We really
Okay, well,
appreciate
thank you for the opportunity to present to you.
Yes, thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you. That was a lot of information. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.